Obviously, any foreign breach of our cybersecurity measures is disturbing, and I strongly condemn any such efforts. The Russians are not our friends.
That was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell speaking out Monday about the CIA findings that the Russian government infiltrated U.S. political party emails during the election. He's joining a group of senators led by John McCain in calling for a bipartisan response and an intelligence committee probe. Joining us now to discuss is WSJ Washington Bureau Chief Jerry Seib. Jerry, thanks so much for joining us. Let me just read first from the statement written by top members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, including Chairman John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Charles Schumer, and Jack Reed. For years, foreign adversaries have directed cyber attacks at America's physical, economic, and military infrastructure while stealing our intellectual property. Now our democratic institutions have been targeted. Recent reports of Russian interference in our election should alarm every American. This cannot become a partisan issue. The stakes are too high for our country. Jerry, those are pretty strong words.
Yeah, they are strong words, as were the words from Senator McConnell. And what they basically tell you is that the hope by Donald Trump that this concern might be dismissed as a partisan Democratic attempt to delegitimize his election is not going to really fly. This issue is not going to go away. There will be serious congressional inquiry. I think there's an important distinction here, though, that Senator McConnell talked about having the Intelligence Committee in the Senate look into it. That's different from having a bipartisan special committee that would be more public have a look at it. So Senator McConnell is basically saying, let's go ahead. We're going to take this seriously, and we're going to do it in a nonpartisan way. But it's also an attempt to keep it under wraps a little bit more than some on the Democratic side would like.
Sure, but will the Russia question prove to be President-elect Trump's first big challenge from within the ranks of his own party, do you think?
Well, I think there's two challenges shaping up this weekend. One is this one, which is to say some Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to let this go. We're going to have a look at it. That's contrary to what Mr. Trump wishes. The second one is the potential nomination of Rex Tillerson of ExxonMobil as the Secretary of State. On that one as well, at least a few key Republicans are saying they have misgivings because of Mr. Tillerson's close relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. So he's got dual problems taking shape within his own party on a couple of pretty important issues.
Well, let's talk about what Trump's view of this is. During the transition call this morning, Trump's spokesperson says the president-elect has not changed his view, which is that all of this is an effort to delegitimize his election. Here is the president-elect discussing it.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just another excuse. I don't believe it. I don't know why. And I think it's just, they talked about all sorts of things. Every week it's another excuse. We had a massive landslide victory, as you know, in the Electoral College. I guess the final numbers are now at 306, and she, down to a very low number. No, I don't believe that at all.
Jerry, will he have to change his story here once this probe is completed?
Well, I think that once he's president and if Congress moves ahead, I don't think he has much choice but to take it seriously if a bipartisan group in Congress is going to take it seriously. I think the other issue, though, that's lurking just beneath the surface is the tension between Donald Trump and the CIA, which has already become, quite obvious and troubling, I suppose, for both sides, which is to say he's impugning both the motivation to some extent of the CIA, but also, and more directly, its competence to get to the bottom of things like this. And that's going to cause him some problems down the road. So, we'll see what it's like when it's President Trump, not President-elect Trump, but I don't think he can make this just go away.
Now, aside from his relationship with the CIA and his views on the CIA, how do you think his views or his relationship with Russia might evolve? I want to play a soundbite with Senator John McCain speaking about Russia.
Facts are there about Russian behavior and Russian, not just hacking into the United States 2016 election campaign, but throughout the world. Vladimir Putin and the Chinese, by the way, and other rogue states view cyber as a form of warfare.
Now, to be hard on Russia is an established GOP trait. Is President-elect Trump going to change this?
Well, he already has. I mean, to the extent that he's the leader of the Republican Party, he's basically leading an effort to change at least the tone of the conversation about Russia from within the Republican Party and from the government in general. He is essentially saying it's in our interest to get along well with Russia and with Vladimir Putin. That's certainly not what John McCain was saying in that soundbite we just heard. So, yeah, there is tension, and it's interesting that the tension on all these fronts, on the relationship with Vladimir Putin, on the question of election hacking, and on this potential nomination for Secretary of State, all have to do with the kind of tenor of the relationship with the Kremlin from the White House. And I think it's going to be different. I think that's what Donald Trump is telling us over and over again.
All right, Jerry, finally, when this probe is completed, what consequences might there be for Russia?
You know, that's an interesting question, because if the probe finds that there was a Russian attempt to interfere with the election, and whatever form that interference took, whether it was to just basically mess with democracy or to specifically help Donald Trump, it's hard to say that can go, such a finding could go without its own consequences. And I think the inevitable reality is that the usual form of retaliation against Russia is economic sanctions. That's going to be particularly interesting if you have a Secretary of State like Rex Tillerson, whose company is a known opponent of economic sanctions and a proponent of having good economic relations with Russia. So, again, there will be more tension on this front. It'll just take a different form.
Absolutely. Jerry Seib, thank you so much for your insight.
Sure.